Happy New Year! Welcome to Mind Matters. This is the first show of the new year. I hope you all had a very peaceful and blessed holiday season. I'm your host, Dr. Wanzo, and this is Mind Matters, where every Wednesday from 6 to 8 p.m. we discuss issues of relevance, mental health related to the community. This evening, we have a very, very special show. A discussion of our forever First Lady, Michelle Obama's book, Becoming. We have several special ladies in the studio this evening, and I'd like for everyone to introduce themselves and say just a little bit about yourself. So we'll start to my right.
Good evening, everybody. My name is Pauline Mansfield. I am originally from Oxon Hill, Maryland, now called Fort Washington, Maryland. And I am retired from healthcare after 25 years, and now I spend my time writing. That's my passion.
Great.
Hi, I'm Carlisa Peterson, originally from Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Here, working with the airline industry, doing that for several years. One day I will retire, thank you.
Okay.
Good evening. My name is Natalie Faust, and I am originally from Atlanta, Georgia. And I enjoy just conversating, meeting new people, and I love children.
I'm Patrina McClure. I'm originally from Maryland, Seat Pleasant. All right. And so here in Atlanta, just my life got redirected. So I'm walking, what they say, I'm living my best life.
Okay.
My name is Frances Holly. I'm a native Californian from the left coast. I'm a retired bookkeeper, and now I'm a volunteer. And I'm excited to say I'm volunteering for the Super Bowl.
Oh, great.
Great.
Okay, and Penny, introduce yourself and say a little bit. Yes, we know all.
Good evening. I'm Penny Rogers from Atlanta, and we're here tonight just to have a good time and talk the book, but I'll talk about Becoming.
Yes. So,
Thanks, Doc.
so Becoming, like I said, is our forever First Lady's book, which is now #1 worldwide.
Yay.
Has sold over 3 million copies. Wow. I'll start with myself. For me, this was a breath of fresh air. Given the sinister political climate that we're in now, it was definitely a breath of fresh air. I mean, I started the book and it was hard to put it down. I had my bed, my eyes would be heavy. At times I cried and found myself throughout the book saying, wow, me too, me too, me too. I mean, I could just resonate, the book resonated with me, just touched me to my soul. So I'd like to hear what your reactions you had after reading the book, your initial impressions. Anyone, feel free to go, whatever your initial impressions were when you read the book.
Well, I love this book from page one. Actually, I felt like in some parts it was about me. You know, there was so many stories that she told that I really, really connected with, almost from beginning to end. And I felt so connected with her. I mean, we all love her. We've loved her ever since they went into office. But this book gave me a bird's eye view from the time she was born. And I just love that.
Oh, yeah.
So is a caller on the line? No? Okay. Thank you. Just
You're welcome.
feel free to just jump in at any point.
I just really echo what the last young lady said with regards to every day, every page. It's hard to put down. I haven't gotten quite to the end because it looked like I just stayed there for a minute. I was feeling every moment, just the closeness with the family, the apartment, all of everything that she, like you mentioned, one page from the beginning, it was breathtaking.
Yes.
I mean, that's in one word, just, and I can't wait to just continue to just it's a book I feel that I will be able to put down, pick back up, put down. I told my girls I wanted you all to keep this because it is just about becoming.
Yes, it is.
Well, I thought that the book was user friendly. It was easy to read, and I like the word refreshing as well because you can then see how anybody, if they choose to excel, they can do it. The life principles that are found in there, but how her parents were intentional about the mindsets they were developing within her and her brother.
Oh, yes.
And that was critical, I believe, to her success. I could see where it pointed all the way back to her foundation.
Well, I thought the book was refreshing as well. I couldn't put it down. I was very excited. In fact, I didn't even wait for the the book. I got it on Nook on my phone and my tablet, and so I read it before everybody else got their book. But I do plan to get the book because it is a keepsake. It is something that we can pass on to our young people and have them read it. It was because of Michelle. I heard her speak during their campaign here in Atlanta, and it was because of her that I voted for Barack Obama. I figured if anybody was smart enough to marry that woman, they could be president. And so I too was impressed by the ideals that the parents, because she talked about that when I heard her speak, how her parents had instilled that sufficiency in her brother and her and growing up.
I wanted to read from the first page because that's what really got me from the preface, the very first, the beginning, this very first paragraph. What she says, this is in the preface. She says, "When I was a kid, my aspirations were simple. I wanted a dog. I wanted a house that had stairs in it, 2 floors for one family. I wanted, for some reason, a 4-door station wagon instead of the 2-door Buick that was my father's pride and joy. I used to tell people that when I grow up, I was going to be a pediatrician. Why? Because I loved being around little kids, and I quickly learned that it was pleasing for adults to hear. Oh, a doctor, what a good choice. In those days, I wore pigtails and bossed my older brother around and managed always and no matter when to get A's in school. I was ambitious, though I didn't know exactly what I was shooting for. Now, I think it's one of the most useless questions an adult can ask a kid. What do you want to be when you grow up? As if growing up is finite. As if at some point you become something and that's the end. That really struck me because, I'm always asking, what do you want to be when you grow up? Kind of like that's the end all and be all. But what you're saying, it's not. It's not. Right. And that's the whole point of the book, becoming. It's not you become one thing and that's it. So I'm going to stop asking kids that, myself, like, what do you want to be when you grow up? Because I always ask kids that, but no more.
That's a great point.
I'd like to add something. From a writer's point of view, this was an educational trip for me because I'm a wordsmith. And I love words, and I love learning new words. And I found myself taking screenshots of pages so I could capture the words, writing words down. I said, I wish I had written down every word new that I stumbled on, looking them up, finding out what they reached. Whoever edited this, these words that they used were just so perfect.
Yes.
They were just not descriptive. They just encompassed more than that. I mean, it's like when you read a little passage, it was huge. It was huge for me. And so I learned a lot, not just about her, but about styles of writing, what really makes a story good. All of that was, I didn't expect that. So that was a bonus for me.
So she titled the book Becoming. So I'm wondering for each of you here, what does becoming mean to you?
Well, for me, becoming means you're always in the process of becoming whatever it is you want to be. But you have to do the right kind of work to get there because success is relative to the work that you put towards it, the sacrifices, so on and so forth, as well as having that supportive team. So becoming means I am always at work on me.
I love that. Yes.
So,
Yeah, and that first passage really strikes me that you just read, because as you said, it's not finite. We are always evolving.
Exactly.
Whatever life
Yes.
comes up
Yes.
comes with us,
Yes.
we're evolving, so we can be a part of that. So we're not just one thing. We're always becoming what God put us here to become.
Yes. Yes.
Amen.
Yes. Yes.
And he's not finished with it yet.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Even at 70 years old, I'm still
You're
evolving.
70. Wow. See, like
Yes.
it's black don't crack.
Yeah.
I think the other thing about becoming for me is you have to accept all the changes as they come. You know, there's going to be change after change after change, and you have to understand that the path may take a real sharp left turn, and that's okay. And so all of us have to accept every bump in the road, you know, as we go along, as we become.
Yes.
Yes.
There's something she said that also stood out to me, because I'm the same way. She said all of her life she was a box checker. And I've always been that way all my life. Everything is a certain way, in order, a box checker. But then as she gets older, she talks about learning to swerve to adjust to life's circumstances. So what does it mean to swerve, and how do we develop that skill? What does it mean to swerve?
Well, I think being flexible,
Uh-huh.
because life is, as you live life, everything changes day to day, and so you just have to be flexible and not be so written in stone. Everything is written down, as you say, a box checker. You can't check every box. Sometimes you have to skip over that box and go to the next one. And so you're always being flexible in life. So whatever comes, you're ready for it.
And I
Ready
think-
for the challenge.
Absolutely. And I feel that it's important to, just like she said about being flexible, to adapt. Because in different situations, it's not going to be always like home. I mean, when you go to another school, for example, you know, you have different people you're meeting, different friends. So being able to make those adaptations is not very easy. But trying to fit in the best you can at the time, you know, while you're growing.
Right. And that's like all of us came from different cities, so we had to adapt to living in Atlanta in the South.
Absolutely.
But me, I'm finding for me, this is probably the most profound effect on me, because thinking that all my life, I always, from early on, box check at this, and then I'm doing this, everything is always planned out. So I find myself finally at 67, finally learning how to swerve, or being open to swerve, instead of everything having to fit into a certain pattern. So that's the biggest profound thing that I've learned from this book.
Oh, okay.
Keep talking, keep talking.
Talking. Okay, I think because we're still getting used to each other, but it's a part of that adaptation process. I think when we realize that a part of the adaptation process includes us making mistakes and then learning from those mistakes, that can help position us to propel in whatever our achievement or our path to success is. And your name doesn't have to be in lights to be successful, you know, and then that definition also changes per person. So we can become whatever we think success looks like, but there are certain qualities I've learned for my definition of success that I found to be consistent with all people, whether it's the Obamas or you, anyone. And so we have to learn how to see what that those qualities are and be consistent at them in order to have a more fulfilled or rewarding life.
Okay. One thing, so it said early in her senior year at Whitney Young High School, Miss Obama went for an appointment with the high school college counselor. Now, Miss Obama had been the treasurer of her senior class. She was in the National Honor Society. She was graduating in the top 10% of her class, and she was interested in joining her older brother Craig at Princeton. the guidance counselor, I often call them misguidance counselors because it happened to me, said to her, "I'm not sure that you're Princeton material." How did Mrs. Obama handle hearing that statement? And how does one avoid having one's dreams dislodged by somebody else's lower expectations?
She really didn't let anything or anybody dash her dreams or her direction. I was very impressed with how grown up, how grown up she handled this. Even when she became successful, she went on to Princeton. Her life became glorious. I think inside her somewhere, there might have been a little temptation to go back and say something but she didn't really have to. The world knew.
Yeah.
So she handled it wonderfully. And I don't know if I could have done that. But and I've known that to have happened to friends where a guidance counselor in particular.
Misguidance, I call
Misguidance.
Misguidance.
Discouraged someone, but the people I knew, thank goodness, were like Michelle Obama. They just said, "Watch me."
I have my own personal experience. I lived in Milwaukee growing up in the inner city. The high school that was in my neighborhood offered no foreign languages. The only math class they offered was algebra. So if I had attended that high school, I would not have been prepared for college. So I told my misguidance counselor in junior high, which was an all-black junior high, that I wanted to go to this school it was called like a university school. It was affiliated with the university, very high standards, that I wanted to go to the school. And she said, "Oh, but you would have to get up early in the morning and catch buses, and it's so far away, and why would you even want to go to that school? Why don't you just..." I said, "No, I'm going to that school." My parents got me transferred to that school, and I was often, because I was they had like X, Y, Z. So X were the extra advanced classes. So I was in the advanced classes, and I would often be the only black person, in my class at this school, which was a small percentage black. But I ended up, graduating top of my class from that school, and I went on to undergrad with the idea of going to medical school. I went to Northwestern, which has a very good, school. I ended up majoring in nutrition because Northwestern didn't have a pre-med major, but the nutrition major was 6 nutrition courses plus the pre-med requirements. Wow. So I majored in nutrition, and as it turns out, they were phasing out the department, so there were only 2 of us that announced our major as freshmen, and after we graduated, they were going to close the department down. So there are 2 of us in the nutrition major, myself and a white female from La Jolla, California, very well-to-do. This counselor, who I took 6 courses with, all throughout kept saying, I told her I wanted to go to medical school. She said, "Why don't you become a nutritionist?" I said, "No, I want to go to medical school." Oh, she kept trying to encourage me to go into dietetics, and I found out my friend Joan. She said, "Well, you know what? She's been encouraging me to go to medical school, and I want to be a dietitian." So she was encouraging her to go to medical school and me to be a dietitian. So finally we graduated. I got 1 B in her class where I should have gotten an A, and I challenged her. She said, "Well, B is a perfectly good grade." I said, "But I earned an A." So anyway, before I graduate, you have to get recommendations to go to medical school. So I figured since I had taken 6 courses from her and had, A's and all A's and B's, she'd be the perfect person to write my medical school recommendation. So here I'm going to all these schools, interviews for medical school, and finally I'm at Howard University. Thank God. The woman said, "You need to see this. Do you know what this woman wrote in my recommendation for medical school? This is what I will never, it's etched in my mind. She does not possess the native intelligence to become a doctor."
Native
intelligence, really? The native intelligence. She does not possess the native intelligence to become a doctor. And I'm like, wow, yes. So I go, this is like senior year, and I finish all my courses with her. Don't say a word to her, anything. Just, finish my courses, graduate, get into medical school. And when I'm getting ready to graduate, I get the invitation. I send her invitation to my medical school graduation. Yeah. Of course, she never responded, but I sent her the native intelligence. Yeah. So right. So yeah. So my thing was, I'll show you. I'll show you.
Well, did you have that kind of foundation that Michelle had in her family?
Yes, because I kept saying, me too. Because my father was a pastor, my mother was a teacher. My father, just like her father, valued books, reading, and education. So before we even went to school, my father used to take us to the library every weekend in a little red wagon, myself and my sister, like 3, 4 years old. I had a library card, and I read before I went to school. Just the same thing. So yeah, the same thing. Because he had still. And another thing I remember, her father took her around showing her the neighborhoods on Lakeshore Drive.
Yes.
When I was in Milwaukee, my father would take. We were on the lake too, because Milwaukee's 90 miles above Chicago, and we had a lake drive. And he would take me and say, "See, you can have a house like this too." So it's the same kind of thing. That's why I felt myself resonating. Also, I took piano lessons at 4, starting at 4 from my mother. That's still the discipline in me, and had the recitals. So that's why I kept saying, "Wow, me too, me too." I found myself so much in this book. This book has been the most life-changing book for me. Yes.
You know, one of the things that she and I was trying to find the quote before I came today. She said that the one thing that changes people's lives, often negatively, is when people put fear. They put the fear of moving forward, the fear of achievement, the fear of being with other people. I wish I could find it because it was a wonderful quote. And she said, we have to make sure we just kind of gird ourselves against that kind of seeds of fear that people plant in us. And that's the very thing these, what do you call them? Misguidance counselors.
Because if I listen to my counselor, if I go into the high school in my neighborhood, no foreign languages, no math above algebra, I wouldn't have been able to go to college or medical school. You know?
I think what it did for me, just when I first started, I had to kind of go back and read some things again because it was resonating just from coming up, being born in the 50s and coming up in the 60s where we were just being held back. People, you know, that were around us, our teachers and certain people were just trying to keep you at a certain level, or then they tried to make you think you were only supposed to be a wife or a mother and not career-minded or an entrepreneur. You know, these things were always kind of kept for the other students and not for certain ones either. But it reminded me of my niece who also graduated from Northwestern. She had a very bad experience. And she called home.
At Northwestern?
Crying. She was at Northwestern. She was crying, and they were trying to get her to take time off or to transfer because they told her she couldn't handle the curriculum.
Wow.
She was being almost trying to be forced out. And I asked her, do I need to get on the plane and come up there? And she said, but I talked to her. I talked to her, and before our conversation ended, I could feel her smile again, but I encouraged her, don't let them tell you what you cannot do. And she ended up graduating.
She's like engineering,
she's an
right? Engineer, yes.
She
That's a
came
very
home,
tough
and
engineering
after
school.
She came home after a few years of staying in Chicago. She came and went to Georgia Tech for her grad degree, and she's an architect.
Yes.
She was about the third
Yes.
top, one of the
Wow.
third top architectural firms in the country. But for somebody to tell you that you're not qualified,
Yeah, like
so,
she's not Prince of Materials.
right,
They
and I
told her.
kept reading, and I
Yeah.
just started thinking about her experience and even just mine, just being in the South, dark complexion, and you know they always have the stigma against certain types of students and what have you. But it was like I knew from day one, no matter what someone told me that I couldn't do, I had the attitude, watch me, and I'll show you. And here I am, 60 years later. It's just, but you have to go beyond what people are telling you, and that's what
Exactly.
becoming was for me. And it is a continuous evolution that we go through, because once you reach a certain plateau, there's always another one to reach.
Yes.
So
That's
you never
becoming.
stop.
You never. It's not
You
final.
never arrive, it's
Yes.
never final.
Yes.
So you just continue
Yes.
no matter what
Yes.
anybody tells you.
Right.
And I like to say that, you know, I always feel like when you wake up and you're breathing, there's another opportunity.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
you have another opportunity to make a difference.
Here's something. In Becoming, Miss Obama writes candidly about detractors who tried to invalidate her standing or her work. I was female, black, and strong, which to certain people, maintaining a certain mindset, translated to angry. I was another damaging cliche, one that's been forever used to sweep minority women to the perimeter of every room, an unconscious signal not to listen to what we've got to say. So what is the root of that angry black woman cliche? And how does it do damage?
I feel that when people try to put labels on you or try to justify why you are an angry black woman as opposed to being a woman and being strong like you are, they're just trying to break you. They're trying to discourage you from being even becoming more and better than what you are. And that's that system. I think it's a systematic thing that goes on in this country and other parts of the world. Women are only supposed to be in a certain place. Women are not supposed to be leaders. Women are not supposed to be, but we are CEOs in our home. We're CEOs in the corporate, and we have broken the glass ceiling, and people need to just get used to it and just let us be who and all that we are created to be. But they try to break you. That's all I feel. That it's just trying to break you.
And there are two sets of rules. I mean, the things that a woman would say is considered overspoken, outspoken.
Yes.
But if
Boisterous.
the same words were spoken by a man, it would be, they would make another determination of what that all meant. And so I think that she was also dealing with that. And in her role as First Lady, she was compared to Barack in many ways. I mean, but it was, in my opinion, I think they were two different people with two different styles. She brought her beauty, her intelligence, her style to the table, and he brought another one. We don't have to compare them. People bring to the table what they bring to the table. And I think women are always relegated to a step down. And we have to continue to push past that.
And also, I agree with what you just said, but also we have to be quick to notice when people, it's a predisposed mindset that people are operating from when they approach the woman, because I call this the season of the woman, because so many women in my life right now are achieving some really great successes. It's like, wow, mind shattering almost, or they're shattering the mold. So I call it the season of the woman right now. And we have to learn how to recognize early on when somebody is saying, really, you're just a woman and this is the mold you need to fit within in my mind. And I'm not willing to budge, so you need to get in it. And it's like, but I tell a couple of people in my life, I need to get outside of the box that's on top of your shoulders. And so you can't even understand my conversation right now. So I can't keep wasting time in this direction. But we have to be mindful to pay attention to what people are not saying, okay? Because we like to listen to what they're saying and we like to run with that. But what are they really saying, by saying what they're saying? You got to learn how to hear the unspoken, and then you'll be able to see, wait a minute, I need to change what I'm doing or how I feel or how I see things so that I can move past this.
We need a decoding manual.
Basically, basically.
But I remember growing up in the church, my father being a minister. I remember people saying that women aren't supposed to be in the pulpit, and that
Still
kind
say
of,
that.
chauvinism. They're still saying it.
Oh yeah.
Oh, really? They're still saying that?
They're still saying it. In fact, we'll talk about that later.
2019.
Oh, yes.
2019.
Wow.
So you never really know until you hit that brick wall. It's like, oh, I got you now. I understand why you did what you did. And, we term it on the street as why you stabbed me in my back. But it's like the bottom line still exists in your mind, even if we're of the same race. You're a woman. And you can't, or you shouldn't, or this is what you should be doing over there, not these things here, as if they don't exist. Opportunities exist on whatever level you're on, and so it's up to us to make them happen. So that's
And the interesting thing is, I would never judge her or describe Michelle Obama as an angry woman. Never.
But she was portrayed that way in the media.
That
That's
she
how
was portrayed. However,
Right. Yeah.
in every situation, I have seen her challenge, but she was always poised.
Yes.
She always came with a point that made sense.
Yes.
I never saw her defensive. So I think that angry was in somebody else's
Right.
side.
Absolutely.
Because
That
she was
not-
assertive. She was
Right.
assertive.
Right.
Assertive is
And
one thing,
chose
but
to
angry is a
No,
whole
and-
other thing.
It was
aggressive,
a
right.
cliche, a stereotype. That's often is how women of color get disempowered by just writing you off as an angry black woman to not listen to what you have to say to avoid the message. But even young girls, I remember this patient I had. She had a girl who was maybe 7 or 8. And she was in my office, in the waiting room, and when I introduced myself, I'm Dr. Wanzo, and the little girl was shocked. I didn't know ladies could be doctors. That was only a couple of years ago.
Oh, wow.
She said, I didn't know ladies could be doctors. I was like,
Wow.
yes, you could be doctors and anything you want to be. But she was really surprised that women could be doctors.
Wow.
Yeah, exposure. Because if that's all you're used to
Yes,
seeing,
yeah.
you just unconsciously make a decision that only men can be doctors. Because you don't know anything different until you came to shatter her world.
And I think the term angry black woman comes from the inferiority of the person using the term.
Good point.
I'm glad that the book will be used in schools now. There are some elementary schools. I'm going to find the article, but I saw the article
Yes.
where they will start putting that within the curriculum.
Exactly.
And I think it's
Great.
good because we don't have role models. We're talking about how they have men running everything and controlling everything, and young girls being surprised that a woman can be a doctor, but just the cultural, just the way that society has tried to put that label on us and keeping us back. I mean, that's just a way to keep a woman being a second-class citizen. In some countries, women are still property. So if we can show and having a role model, I think that was the best thing that they could do to give young black girls a role model.
'Cause that was
a
one of her-
positive role model.
Because that was one of her initiatives,
Exactly.
educating girls.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
And this is a history book.
Right,
I mean,
right.
every single page is history.
Yes, it is.
And she spells out in such a beautiful roadmap from the beginning of the journey on through their period of time in the White House so beautifully. I mean, you see the dates, you see the inner walls, how she paints a picture
Yes.
of how it really is. But every bit of this is going to go down in history forever.
Yes.
So I'm really happy to hear that it's going to be in schools. I didn't know that.
Yeah,
No,
and
me
it's
either.
so honest.
It is.
Yes.
Exactly.
It makes you
Very transparent.
aware, very
Yes.
transparent.
Yes.
Yeah, even the issues that she and Barack had,
Yes.
and they went to counseling.
Right, they
she
went
was
to
very open
counseling,
about
yeah.
that.
She spilled all the beans.
Yeah, so everything.
But you know how when she said when she went to counseling, it was like to fix him, to change him. I'm fine. to fix him.
We're fine.
Yeah, fix him. Yeah, fix him. Is that a call?
No, that's
Oh, okay.
But getting on that counseling piece, I hope not too many readers will skim over that part there because we all could benefit from it. And I still hear people saying, "Oh, I don't need counseling," and I'm like, "Oh, you're the one who really needs to be in somebody's chair." It's like, okay,
Yeah, like love the book that your father wrote. I'm not crazy. I don't need counseling.
right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I still find that amazing how people still say that, but it's like we all need help somewhere. Sometimes, and it's okay. We struggle in silence, and we have to learn how to speak out and say, "Yo,
Because
can
I'm
you help
open.
me
Like
out?"
I did my training in New York, and at the time I went through divorce. And so the whole 3 years that I was in residency and going through divorce, I was in therapy 3 times a week. I needed it. Yeah.
Well, for African Americans, there's still a stigma
Oh, very much so.
to this
Very
day
much,
that
very much.
we don't have those kind of problems. Counseling, what is that?
Right.
Yes.
But then we always have it when it comes to police. But anyway, I'm just saying.
Yes, I'm glad glad she was very, like you said, she was transparent about everything. Wow. Even her self-doubts that she had.
Yeah.
At times, can I? Yes, I can. Yeah. Wow.
But isn't that how we all ought to talk to
Yes.
ourselves?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I found myself doing that.
Mhm.
Wait a minute, get rid of those thoughts,
Mhm.
ignore those feelings, and just do it. You know, so I have to talk to me. But we all talk to ourselves,
But
whether
she was
it's
talking out loud.
Yeah. Oh, I talk out loud too. You know, because that's the best way. Like the Bible says, faith comes with hearing, not thinking, but hearing. So when we hear it out loud, whether it's from you or you, but that hearing has a power source attached to it. And it has the ability to start transforming our mindsets. So sometimes we have to hear it out loud.
Yeah.
But recognize when we have to say it out loud is key too. Because sometimes I'm like, wait a minute, I'm tripping. I need to stop. It's like, let me say out loud what I have to say so I can hear it. And then my family is like, what are you doing? It's like, you all aren't speaking what I need to hear. So I need to hear it and I need to say it so I can hear it and do what I need to do.
And she did that, her self-talk,
Yeah.
talking to herself and convincing herself. I mean, that was wonderful. One of the funniest parts of the book to me, I mean, was when she was talking about her vulnerabilities and how it came out in her dream. The dream with the tiger.
Oh,
and the,
yeah,
do you
that
remember
was-
that
yeah.
part?
I
The
did.
dream. I mean, because it seems so real at first,
It
but it was
did.
really
I thought it was
Yeah.
real.
right. And then it was a dream. It was like the four animals, trying to attack them. But it was
Right.
really her self-doubt and fears and vulnerabilities. But I love how
I
she
thought
shared
that
that
was really
dream.
interesting
Yes.
because she's so descriptive. I'm thinking, did that actually happen at the White House?
Because it's possible, it's a possibility at the White House that could happen.
They actually had set up a tiger, was a lion, a panther, and they said they had sedated them so they
And all of a sudden they were chasing them across the White House lawn.
Yes, that was hilarious.
Yeah, that really grabbed because in my mind that was real.
Yes,
As she was
yes,
describing.
And to her it was
And I was like,
Yeah.
woke up from the dream. Yeah.
You thought the same thing?
Go back and read it again.
Yes.
Yeah.
I thought that was funny.
I believe that transparency will help, especially young, everyone, but young women, to read the book and see what she went through. And as you said, the misguided counselors. I had that experience in high school. I wanted to go to school for electrical engineering, and the math department head told me, oh, you don't need advanced math class. You need to work on your history and your English. I said, but I'm going to school for electrical engineering. No, you don't need that. So then my first year of college, when calculus hit me, I wasn't ready for it. So it's good to see and hear her experiences, and it will help the younger generation. It will help them and us as well. And us as well.
In high school, Mrs. Obama said she felt that she was representing her neighborhood. At Princeton, faced with questions of whether she was the product of affirmative action, she felt like she was representing her race. Was that more than a feeling? Was she actually representing her communities in these settings? Have you had moments in your life, where you felt as though you were representing your community?
I believe so.
I think every day that we go into the world, we are representing our community because of the stigma that the media portrays African Americans, especially our men. But I think that anytime that we go out, that we are representing because the world is watching us. And however we're depicted here in the United States, that's what other parts of the world look at us as, whatever the media is showing us. So when we are in corporate, when we have our own businesses, when we are educators, when we're doing whatever it is that we do in life, we are representing our community because people are watching us and they're looking at us to see what we are doing or not doing And so for us to have the positive images out there, the world knows it, but the media will continually put us in a negative light. So I think we're representing ourselves every time we step out of that door.
When I went to medical school, it was in Madison, Wisconsin. Wisconsin is just primarily a white state, and Milwaukee, Racine, and Beloit, Kenosha are the areas where there are more blacks. But for the rest of the state, it's mostly whites. When I was in medical school, I had several classmates tell me I was the first black person they ever met in their life. They've gone through, college, undergrad, and here they are in medical school, and they tell me I'm the first black person they met. So there is this kind of threshold. Well, what kind of, how do I, interact with this person to tell me that I'm the first black person they've ever met?
Has anyone ever had the question posed to them, another race outside of our own to tell us that we're not like the others?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yes. You're not like the other black people that I've met, and I look at them like, well, I am those other black people. I mean, they used to look at me like I was crazy, but I just took that very negatively because
What do you mean?
well, you're not like the others.
Oh, you speak so well.
You're speaking white. They said, you're speaking white or something like that. So
you're proper.
And that's what she went through as well, even with her peers when she was talking about being on the stoop with the girls. And one of her cousins or one of the other girls told her that she's talking white, because you enunciate or you use proper English, and why is it you have to be speaking white? So, but I think that society still put those stipulations on us, and they give other races a negative image of us, and so when they see us not being that thug or that hoodlum or someone in the news that it shows, they look at us like, wow. They're looking at us like, wow. And I just can't believe that society, here we are in 2019 and we're still having to go through that.
That experience was probably the most traumatic experience I've ever had, being in medical school in that setting. Like, there were 160 students in my medical school class, and 3 of us blacks. One of the black female and the black male. It was a very traumatic experience. Okay, at the time I had a big Angela Davis afro, so she was like half Japanese and black, had long straight hair, but throughout the whole time we were there, professors, other students kept confusing the two of us, calling me by her name, and it was like these two.
We all look like.
Right, exactly, and they could never tell us apart. Professors, students, and they just kept getting us confused the whole time that we were there. I had students who would come up to me saying, the only reason you're here is because of affirmative action, things like that. A professor said, you black girls may think you're cute, but you're not going to graduate from this medical school. I mean, it's daily, we call them microaggressions, insults that you get daily while we're there. I mean, that's why 45 years, this is the first time I've gone back, was this year for my 45th reunion. Before that, I never went back. It was such a traumatic experience. This is my first time this year. Last year I went back for my 40th reunion, reunion for the first time. First time. It was such a traumatic experience. When I got there, it was interesting because I didn't know who people were, but they all knew me. I didn't know who they were.
Because you were the only black girl, right?
You made quite the impression, Dr. Wanzo.
They knew who I was. I'm like,
You made quite the impression.
I remember this about you and you. I'm like, wow. Yeah.
Where were you then?
They were taking note. They were taking note, all right. Oh, yes. Unbeknownst to you, but they were taking good notes. Especially.
As the saying goes, people try to act like they don't see you or know what you're doing.
40 years, it was my 40th year
They're
reunion.
watching you. They're watching you.
I hadn't been back in 40 years. It was my 40th year reunion.
Wow. Thanks for representing.
In fact, the other young lady, she said no, she'll never go back because she felt so traumatized. So she said she will never go back there. So I asked her if she was going. She said absolutely not. She'll never go back.
So what made you go back?
I just wanted to. I guess because last year I went to my college reunion, medical school. It's just a year of reunions for me. Just wanted to. Yeah.
One of the check boxes.
Yeah, a year of reunions. Yes.
Well, that brings me to the point in the book, now that you're speaking about going back to reunions and things of that nature, where Michelle talked about I believe it was the University of Chicago, and I think she was getting a job or something like that, and she had this gentleman, I can't think of his name right now, but when she thought about, even though I know her dream and her goals were to go to Princeton like her brother, but she often wondered about, and I guess the gentleman did too. Why is it that she had no interest in the University
When it
of
was in her neighborhood.
when it was right in her neighborhood?
Yeah.
And her point to him was there was no type of what am I trying to say? No type of
But outreach
or
They
community.
had a wall up to the
Yes,
community.
yes.
Right, and so
They
no,
were there, but they had no connection.
no connection with the community, and that hit really at home with me
Right.
because I'm thinking, you have this school that these kids can actually go in, make a difference, learn, and this is the wall that you have up here, like you
Right.
said, and she. I mean, it was just really unbelievable when she went back,
Yeah.
and he's like, I can't believe you saw nothing here.
Yeah.
Really?
Right.
I mean, there was no invitations, just nothing, no presence of
You
the
know
school
what it
in that
reminded me
sense.
of? I'm probably older than everybody at this table, but you know, I grew up during segregation, and I went 26 miles to my high school. 26 miles one way, passing 6 white schools because there was the wall up right in my neighborhood where we weren't considered good enough to go to their schools. And I think that's the same. I got that feeling. There was the same feeling that Michelle felt when she was probably close enough to take a quick bus ride.
Yes.
And she could not, or felt that she could not,
Yes.
because that was always the quiet message that was sent, that you don't belong here.
Yes.
Like my counselor told me, why do you want to, you have to get up early in the morning and take all these two buses to get to the school. Why would you want to do that? So we went from the black neighborhood to go to the white. So I did the reverse thing to go to a good quality school. Because actually, even though this wasn't during segregation schools, Milwaukee was one of the most segregated cities, still is.
But perhaps that was the counselor's fear, and not, not yours.
Speaking of walls, I went to Bladensburg High School, and I remember a class.
That's what kind of school is that?
That's a high school, just a regular integrated school, because this is just past the civil rights era thing. Well, although civil rights is ongoing, but I remember it was during the time of taking, elementary was during when they took prayer out of school. I remember that. But fast forwarding to high school, I remember that I had a classmate, and he was the grandson of a grand wizard.
Oh, wow.
And so he spoke of how when it looks like we don't see you, we see you, you know, but he also talked about how the school curriculum were published by certain publishers whose agendas were purposed to help us not connect with our history so that we
To
can
leave
feel
us out.
disenfranchised. So we're trying to figure out who we are all the time. While they have that behind the wall, you know, we have this connect, this is the system we have in place. If this happens, we're going to that. So they have that 20 to 50 year plan going on, which I really believe that's why that boy up in the White House is but I really believe that. But anyway, but those walls are there, and we have to bust them down. And Michelle, she chose to bust the walls down and didn't let them keep her from where she knew in her heart where she was supposed to be. You know, and so
But
when
the
you know.
interesting point that you made was that she had to go all the way to Princeton for it to really be in her mind that, you know, I went all the way there when I could have gone right here, and it wasn't even in her thinking to consider it.
Right.
Until she was invited to that job. And I got the feeling, I don't know if anybody else felt this, that she was like, I don't know if I should even apply here.
Yes, I got that feeling.
Because there was that invisible wall still up
Still
in
up.
her mind. You know, so that's an interesting point you made.
I want to talk about this something that stuck out in my mind. She said, this was like after Barack had delivered the eulogy at the Mother Emanuel Church in South Carolina. She said, "For more than 6 years now, Barack and I had lived with an awareness that we ourselves were a provocation. As minorities across the country were gradually beginning to take on more significant roles in politics, business, and entertainment, our family had become the most prominent example. Our presence in the White House had been celebrated by millions of Americans, but it also contributed to a reactionary sense of fear and resentment among others. The hatred was old and deep and dangerous as ever." And I think that's what happened after he left.
Yeah.
That this person now was elected in reaction to
That's right.
to their presence. She's a very presence. Being black, family in the White House was a provocation to millions of people. So, yeah, that's what the backlash that we have now.
The scary part is I think he found out by accident that it was working, and his whole political platform changed, and he kept riding that horse, and so far it hasn't died. It's struggling, but it hasn't died yet, but it's going to die out, especially when they can't get food to eat, because they don't have money, because they're out of work. People's health insurance is about to be canceled. After 30 days, you're no payment, you don't have insurance. We already know about the food stamp thing, so that's neither here nor there to a degree, but it's so many trickle down effects.
All the TSA
I
workers
want a
calling
wall.
out. Yeah.
I want a wall. And it's like, why don't you pay for it? But anyway, that's a whole other story. He has to pay for his own stuff.
Okay, so we're going to take a short break and we'll be back. And I don't think I gave the number to call, so when we return, we would love to hear from you. The number to call is 678-619-1402, 678-619-1402, 678-619-1402. We're going to take a short break, but we would love to get your reaction, so please call in.